I'm Alongside Chowder.
I'm Dexton Key.
And I'm Shay Eblum.
And welcome to GT Humanities Crash Course World Culture.
Today we will be covering the little-known early civilization of the Malchids.
To start out our summary, we have the 5 W's. Our first W being who. Who are we talking about? We're talking about an ancient civilization called the Malchids. Second, when. The Malchids existed from 8000 BCE up until 4500 BCE. Where did they exist? They lived in the grasslands of the Russian-Mongolian border. What are pastoral nomads? For now we're going to call them herders, but we'll go more into depth about that later. And why were they pastoral nomads? Simply because of the infertile grasslands in which they lived. Now we'll go over to Dexton to talk a little bit more about their culture.
Like Shay said, these people were pastoral nomads. This means that they were primarily focused on herding of their sheep and goats. Their nomadic lifestyle came because they lived on infertile land, which means that they couldn't live on one area for long, or else the grass would eventually die, and so would their food. Over time, the Malchid developed technologies to adapt to their harsh environment. Around me will be some example artifacts, like a herder's staff and a backpack that they used to carry around their things whenever they migrated.
This is an example of an ancient herding stick that was used during the Malchid civilization. This was a bag used in the Malchid civilization to carry materials while they traveled or to carry babies.
Their backpacks didn't carry many items, and very few personal items have been found. These nomads also had an interesting practice. They would migrate around Lake Baikal or other natural landforms on a regular basis. This process is known as circular migration.
When the Malchids first came to be, they believed the lake god Lord Baikal and the goddess Tengri of rain were their saviors. The story went like this. At the beginning, when the earth was dry and arid, goddess Tengri was the only inhabitant. She began to grow lonely and began to cry. Her tears created a lake, and out of the lake emerged Lord Baikal, who eventually marries her and has 3 boys who are the main deities of humanity. Lord Amidro, the eldest out of the 3 boys, was the god of life. After him came the god of plants, or Gama. Finally, the youngest out of the 3 was Gamali, the fire god. Growing up, Amidro, Urgama, and Gamali were best friends. They always supported each other through good times and bad. When the first life on earth came from Amidro, Gamali was jealous. As Amidro got all the fame and glory for making more and more things come to life, Gamali became angrier and angrier. One day when Amidro and Urgama were helping each other to support life, Gamali came in the way and started to take lives away. Baikal was unhappy with his son's actions. At the end, Baikal sent Gamali away to Earth, but made him a necessary to the religion of the Malchids. Speaking about religion, the Malchids were polytheistic people who believed in the triangle of life. This triangle represents the necessary items for humanity to survive. The first side shows the fire which came from Gamali. The second side is plants provided from Urgama, and the third side comes from the water that Lord Baikal provides from his lakes. A meal uses all of these factors to provide life. Finally, the Malchids believed in sacrifice. Whenever someone in the village was hurt or sick, they would throw a goat or a sheep into the fire. This was an offering they gave to God to allow themselves to live a life full of peace and prosperity.
The Malchid civilization was based off of a chiefdom. Since they had to keep their population relatively small, each family was assigned a main specialization, and the eldest male in that family had a spot on the Council of Elders. The Council of Elders consists of several jobs, including the builder, craftsman, the head herder of goats and sheep, and the record keeper. This council is recycled when the eldest male in each family, who cannot work efficiently, takes the spot of his father when he dies. So the grandfather will watch his kids do the job and supervise, as well as teach the grandkids how to keep on the legacy. On the other hand, the chief is in charge of navigation, and his job is recycled through patriarchy. Since the Council of Elders was based primarily on males, it was important for each family to have at least one male child to keep on the legacy. But let's not forget about the females. Although they weren't very important in politics, they were a huge part of the economy. When women weren't busy taking care of children or cooking, they were considered weavers and would create several products such as textiles and baskets out of the wool and long grasses in the area. They were also the inspiration of their record-keeping system of knotting. Back in the Malchid civilization, they used different knots to create different tracking systems. In this piece of Akipo, it was a calendar, using different colors to count the different days, and using red to show the sacrifices that were made. In this piece of Akipo, they tracked the different number of sheep and goats that they had. And lastly, in this one, they tracked what stage they were in their circular migration.
Inside a Malchid tribe, trade was the dominant economic system. Herders might trade their wool with meat from the butcher, who might even trade their meat for medicine from the shaman. As a result, goods were distributed throughout the village, although not always evenly. However, the Malchid didn't always keep to themselves in terms of trade. Tribes would trade their sheep and goat products such as wool or skins or milk for wheat, metal tools, and leather from agricultural civilizations that lived around them. However, all civilizations must come to an end, or at least the small ones. All of us will now recount the disappearance of this small ethnic group.
Starting around 4,500 BCE, Malchid tribes started having population decreases. Seldomly seen Malchid people started making their way southward into the Yellow River Valley or eastward into the Kazakh steppe, and were incorporated into the existing villages or other nomadic tribes that they encountered.
The reason for these few tribes disbanding is unknown, but more and more people started joining the villages over time. The most common theory about the disappearance of Malchid tribes is that the appeal of an agrarian stationary lifestyle appeared to have outweighed those of a pastoral and nomadic one.
By the time of the first Chinese dynasty, the Malchid had completely disbanded. Today, Malchid descendants live in Mongolia, China, and Russia. That completes today's episode of GT Humanities Crash Course World Culture. We hope you've learned a little about one of the most forgotten early civilizations. Tune in next time where we discuss another early civilization in the Indus River Valley region. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.